What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on Ranger Central. And today we're going to be doing something very different here. I'm going to be looking at NHL Network's top 10 and 20 list because for whatever reason with the goalies, they did 10 and then 20 for the rest. But I saw the defenseman rankings and they were so laughable that I had to make a video looking at the rest of the list. So before we jump into everything, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're a Ranger fan though, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you want me to do my own rankings, especially since I'm about to go in on whoever even made these rankings? I'm not sure, but yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you want me to make my own rankings and stuff like that? Because I will gladly do that, but let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. And I'm sorry if any of the pictures on the side here are blurry. For whatever reason, the goalie one's not as blurry as the rest, but regardless, let's get into it. Starting in at number 10, we got Linus Ullmark. I really don't have an issue with that. He's been consistent throughout the past few seasons. Kind of a beneficiary of the Boston Bruins. I don't even know if I said that word right, but we'll roll with it. Kind of has benefited, though, from the Boston Bruins, of course. Has put up some, like, solid saber metrics, like advanced analytics and stuff, so I have no issue with Ullmark being here. I think 10's also a pretty fair spot, so it is what it is. Saros at 9, I don't agree with because he should be higher. Like, I think UC Saros is a guy that could be in the top 6. I don't know about top 5, maybe even top 5, because I do, just looking right now, I do have a bit of issues here, but UC Saros a little bit low for my liking. And Jake Ottinger, especially Jake Ottinger, I don't know what he's doing this low. That to me makes no sense. I get that he did have a little bit of a down year statistically, but Jake Ottinger is a guy, which I'll get into my whole argument here in just a second here, especially to support Jake Ottinger. We have Sergei Bobrovsky here at 7. Makes sense after the season he had. Granted, I don't know. Like, I still like some of these other goalies more than Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm not taking away from what he's done, but I like to value what goalies have done over, the course of a few seasons here. And Sergei Bobrovsky being at 7, I think that's fair. I still think it's pretty fair, all things considered. Thatcher Demko at 6 makes sense. I would personally have him a tad bit lower. I think Ottinger and Saros deserve to be over him, but Thatcher Demko, still no problem with him being in the top 10. Ilya Sorokin should not be in the top 5. If we're gonna dock points on Jake Ottinger for having a down season, Ilya Sorokin, I don't know if he should be in the top 5 personally, especially because Semyon Varlamov just had a better year than him, and he lost his starter role for a bit of time. I don't know. To me, again, this isn't just being a Ranger fan thing, because I'm sure the comments will say that, but I don't know. Ilya Sorokin, you look at not this past season, but the one prior, very good season. Like, I'm not going to take that away from him. Probably should have won the Vezina, arguably. But, I like to look at it as, like, more of a 3-year type deal when I do my rankings, mostly taking stock, of course, into the most recent season, because how could you not with recency bias, of course. And when you look at, that 2021-22 season, it was solid. You could argue some of that was the Islanders playing better hockey in front of him. But regardless, I mean, again, he is a top 10 goalie at the end of the day, so it's stupid to sit here and nitpick. But I personally still would have him lower than Ottinger and probably Saros. But I'd have no issue if he was like, 7. I think he should be like 7th probably. Somewhere in that range. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just nitpicking here. Jeremy Swayman at 4. Fine. I'd probably put him higher because Andrei Vasilevsky, if we're talking about a goalie that has statistically not been great, and I'm not taking away from what he does come playoff time, because who do you want more than Andrei Vasilevsky? But let's be honest here. During the regular season over the past few seasons, Andrei Vasilevsky has not put up these otherworldly numbers. And again, I have no issue with him being on this list at all. I just, again, think that he should be lower. Like, I still would put guys like Ottinger. I'd put Saros over him. You could maybe even argue Sorokin and Demko right now over him. But that's just for the right now, again, because I don't know. I just feel that it's a little too high for a guy that's kind of not put up the best regular season numbers, but maybe they're including postseason play. But then if they are, why is Connor Hellebuck number 2? And why is Jeremy Swayman not above Connor Hellebuck? Because Connor Hellebuck this postseason was really not that great. But if this is based on regular season, then I have no problem with Hellebuck being 2, because Hellebuck has been utterly unbelievable goalie, and then Igor Shesterkin being number one makes complete sense. I think they got the top 10 right in terms of the goalies. It's just I would switch the order a little bit of these guys, because I'm trying to even like look right now at goalies from this past year, and there's really no one to argue. Like, you could maybe throw Tristan Jarry in the conversation, but even then, I'm not taking Tristan Jarry over any of these 10 goalies. I think this is very fair in terms of the goalies they picked. I think we could see a guy like Hofer potentially get in this list. Jordan Binnington maybe could win his way back into the top 10. Two St. Louis guys, of course, there. Joey Daccord, if he repeats what he did last season, he'll find himself on this list. But for the goalies, not bad. Again, I would just switch things. So maybe me nitpicking is a little dumb, but that just is what it is. If you know me, you know I'm a nitpicking type guy. Then we move on to the wingers. Number 20, Travis Konechny. We got Ovi at 19, Marchand at 18, Keller at 17, Gensel at 16, 15 Connor, 14 Forsberg, 13 Stamkos, 12 Tkachuk, 11 Hyman. I'm very perplexed right now because, again, like, what is this based on? Because Alex Ovechkin over the past few years, again, I am not discrediting what Ovi has done his entire career. I mean, there's just nothing to take away. But we're really going to sit here and throw him in top, because this is also very key, which I should have pointed out with the goalie list, but I'm noticing it now because it's at the top of the screen. It says right now. How could you sit here and have Alexander Ovechkin in the top 20 wingers right now? In today's NHL, you cannot sit here and tell me that he deserves to be in the top 20. I'm sorry. And again, that's not to take away from what Ovi's been his entire career, but no, there's just no world. I think Kyle Connor is being very underrated. Steven Stamkos should not be 13th. He should be lower on the list. Like, Kyle Connor and Jake Gensel are both better players than Stamkos, which there's a reason the Tampa Bay Lightning went out and got Gensel instead of, bringing back Stamkos. I'm sorry, no way. Brad Marchand's also better than Stamkos. There's just no world where that should be a thing. But I want to see the rest of the list before I could give my full evaluation. So here we go. We got Mitch Marner at number 10. Fine. Sam Reinhart at 9. Also fine with that. Nylander at 8. I guess. Kaprizov 7. Robertson 6. Panarin 5. Pastrnak 4. Rantanen 3, Tkachuk 2, Kucherov 1. Again, what is this based on? Because if we're going on the regular season, then Tkachuk should probably be a few slots lower, and Panarin should probably, I'd put him at 5 and then move, Panarin, Pasta, and Rantanen up a spot if we were basing it on that. But I don't know if this is based on, both postseason and regular season, because if so, then yeah, obviously Tkachuk deserves to be there. But I'm trying to think of guys that are potentially missing right now as I'm trying to pull up a list. I mean, you could argue that Jesper Bratt maybe could be on the winger list in terms of some of the top guys mentioned. I still think Stamkos, though, severely overrated on these lists. Where is Clayton Keller? Hello, I'm just looking at names right now. Where is Clayton Keller on this list? He wasn't on the other one, right? Okay, he was. Sorry. Completely blanked. I almost lost it for a second. Adrian Kempe, though, Adrian Kempe should definitely be on these lists right now. Brock Besser, you could argue. Jonathan Marchessault, I think, is better than, I would argue that you could put him on this list. I mean, over Ovechkin, surely, in 2024 here. Outside of that, I mean, in terms of other guys, you can maybe argue to be on the list as I'm looking, just at production from last season, looking at some names here. A name that I think will emerge himself, Quinn Byfield. I think Alexi Lafreniere as well could be on this list next season. Those are two younger guys. Cole Caulfield maybe could climb his way up the rankings. Kevin Fiala, you can maybe argue to be on these rankings. You could argue, point-wise, I obviously wouldn't put him there even as a Ranger fan. Chris Kreider. Boldy, you could argue Boldy should be here. But I don't know. I mean, again, I don't have an issue so much with some of the names. I do think Ovi shouldn't be here. I do think that Stamkos shouldn't be here as well. But some of these guys need to be reordered. Like, Jake Gensel's better than Zach Hyman, too. And I like Zach Hyman, but Jake Gensel's a better player. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? Same with Clayton Keller. I don't know. I would definitely re-rank some of these guys, but regardless, we'll move on to the center spot. So we got at number 20, Nico Hischier, 19, Mika Zibanejad, 18, Robert Thomas, 17, Tim Stützle, 16, Nick Suzuki, 15, Dylan Larkin, 14, Rope Hintz, and then something just hit me too. Matt Barzal played the wing last year. Why was Matt Barzal not in the top 20? And I think Barzal's a little overrated still, but again, over a guy like Ovi. Stay on track. Hischier, Zibanejad, Thomas, Stützle, Suzuki at 16, Larkin at 15, Hintz at 14, Bedard at 13, Aho at 12, and then we have Miller at 11. And I'll look at the rest of the list before I lose my mind. We got Elias Pettersson at 10, Jack Hughes at 9, Jack Eichel at 8, Braden Point at 7, Crosby at 6, Barkov at 5, Draisaitl 4, Matthews 3, McKinnon 2, McDavid 1. I think the top 5 they nailed. Even the top 6, I would put Crosby still at 6. 7, 8, 9, I think they got the right grouping of guys, but I would maybe reorder things a bit. I think I would, dock Jack Hughes a bit just because he has had health issues, which, it's not his fault, obviously, but I think that you got to take at least some stock into the fact that he's not been healthy over the past few years, and I would personally put Pettersson above. And then I wanted to go back to this page, which, again, it seems like they're factoring in the playoffs for some guys and some they aren't, because if we're factoring the postseason, why is JT Miller not above Elias Pettersson? Like, JT Miller was a better playoff guy. Aho at 12, no issue there. Bedard's going to shoot up the rankings after this year. I think he's going to no doubt be in the top 10. Hintz, I'm fine with. Larkin, fine. I think Suzuki needs to be a bit lower. Same with Stützle. Thomas, I would put personally above those two guys. That's just me, though. And then you have Zibanejad, which, why is Zibanejad even here? I'm a Ranger fan. Why is Mika Zibanejad on this list? He's not even the best center on his team. That's just, I don't know what Zibanejad's even doing here. There's no world where he deserves to be on a top 20 center list. The guy cannot produce at 5v5 to save his life. Hischier, fine with him being on the list. Again, a little bit of injury issues, which maybe could push him off. But, in terms of names that I do feel maybe are missing, Bo Horvat's a guy that I would probably put somewhere on this list. Like, I don't know. I think Bo Horvat's honestly been, a consistent player that maybe deserves to be here. But again, I get it. There are, because of point production, and you look at that sort of deal, and it does, of course, dock him a bit. Carter Verhaeghe, I would put Verhaeghe on this list in a heartbeat. If he's not going to be a center, then why was he not on the winger list? Because Carter Verhaeghe definitely deserves to be somewhere on one of these two lists. So I don't get that one. And then where is Mark Scheifele? Like, Mark Scheifele, hello? Where's Mark Scheifele on this list? I don't know. There's just certain guys that I don't understand. Some guys, they maybe got confused to consider them centers, consider them wingers, but regardless, I don't know. Again, just I don't love it. I think they got some of the names right. Like, I think the top 15 is actually pretty fair, to be honest with you. But, down from that, it's kind of a mixed bag, more of who probably deserves to be here. And I could tell you right now, Zibanejad shouldn't be here. Hischier, you could argue, shouldn't because of injuries. And then Stützle, again, should be lower, because if we're talking right now, and a guy who just had a down year, I don't know what we're doing putting Tim Stützle currently in the top 20. And then, Suzuki, I think is a bit lower, but I think I can live with him at 16. But we'll move on to the final rankings here, to the defenseman ones, which this is just terrible. This is just flat out terrible. So Moritz Seider at 20. We got Dougie Hamilton at 19. Noah Hannafin at 18, as my camera's getting messed up here. Drew Doughty at 17. Matthias Ekholm at 16. Noah Dobson at 15. Zach Werenski at 14. Jacob Slavin at 13. Josh Morrissey at 12. Rasmus Dahlin at 11. And then you round out the group with Devon Tays at 10. Evan Bouchard at 9, Adam Fox at 8, Charlie McAvoy at 7, Gustav Forsling at 6, Miro Heiskanen at 5, Roman Josi at 4, Victor Hedman at 3, Quinn Hughes at 2, Cale Makar at 1. I'm going to just say it off the rip. What the fuck is Adam Fox doing at 8? Like, what are we talking about here? He is the only, like, he's in a very elite company of defensemen who consistently finish top 5 in the Norris voting, has a Norris to his name as well, but he's 8th below Gustav Forsling. What are we talking about here? Putting Gustav Forsling in the top 10 right now. Like, I'm sorry, maybe next year, but recency bias is playing way too much in the Gustav Forsling's rankings. Victor Hedman, not top 3 in 2024. Still a very good defenseman. Still deserves to be in the top 10 or at least 20. But number 3, no way. Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, fine with those guys being 1 and 2. I would personally put Fox at 2, but that's the Ranger fan in me. I think your top 3, though, needs to be some sort of combo of Makar, Hughes, and Fox. I don't care what the order is at that point. Just some combination of those 3, and it's fine to validate the list. But Adam Fox at 8 is just pure stupidity. Like, I'm sorry. Roman Josi at 4, fine. I personally would put Miro Heiskanen above him, but that's just me. McAvoy, fine with his ranking, although he should be above Gustav Forsling too. Evan Bouchard, listen, I like Bouchard. I would personally still put Devon Toews probably over Evan Bouchard, but again, I have no issue with that sort of deal there. Dahlin too, I would probably put Dahlin a little bit higher. Like, why is Rasmus Dahlin at 11? I would put him above Toews and put him above Evan Bouchard, but I don't get it. And then you got Morrissey at 12, which is fine. Slavin at 13, fine. Obviously doesn't put up points, but still a very solid guy in his own end. Zach Werenski being on this list is just, I don't understand why Zach Werenski's on this list. And I get that, you know, you look at the points that he puts up, and he was top 12 this year in points. But if we're talking from doing the job in their own end, Zach Werenski doesn't do that. And if we're going to reward Zach Werenski for being good offensively, then why is Mike Matheson not on the list? Why is Morgan Riley not on the list, who you could argue is better in his own end even, which not by much, but you could argue that. Why is Zach Werenski here? Noah Dobson at 15, another guy who I would personally put a tad bit lower, because I think that, again, he puts up great offensive numbers, not taking it away from him, but in his own end, a little bit shaky in his own end. Not as bad as Werenski, but a little bit shaky. Matthias Ekholm at 16, I guess, fine. Drew Doughty at 17, sure. Noah Hannafin at 18, sure. Hamilton, 19, I don't know, because of injuries, but I guess it's fine. And Sider at 20. Brock Faber not being on this list makes legitimately no sense to me. Jake Sanderson not being on this list also makes no sense to me. Like, those are 2 guys that should definitely be here. And if they're not going to be here, then next year, surely they'll be here. I at least would hope. But those are 2 guys I look at, and it's like they put up better seasons, arguably, than Gustav Forsling, which, again, I get you look at Forsling's plus minus and everything, and that's what people are going to think, oh, well, he deserves to be that. But let's remember the team that he plays for before we look at plus minus as the end all be all. But regardless, yeah, I don't get how they, you know, calculated some of this. And even Vince Dunn's a guy that could maybe be on this list. Like, he dealt with injuries. So Dougie Hamilton, who deals with an injury, still gets to crack the top 20. But Vince Dunn, who put up 46 points in 59 games and still plays like respectable in his own end. Again, that goes back to the thing where if Werenski's in here, why is Vince Dunn not here? Vince Dunn's put up better offensive numbers over the past few seasons than Zach Werenski, and is probably better in his own end as well. Why is Vince Dunn not on this list instead? It just makes no sense the way they went about this one in particular. Like, the defensive list, I think this is easily the worst of the list that they ended up making. I would say behind that is probably the center list. The center of the winger list. I think the goalie list is probably the best one for sure, because that one was kind of hard to mess up. The top 10's very, consensus. It's just a matter of what order to put them in. But the center list and the winger list are like, I think they could be better. But the defenseman list is just a complete and utter disaster. I have no words for that list. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like if you haven't. Let me know if you want me to do my rankings. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live on the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one.